Our next topic is something that's fascinating to me, AI. I first learned about AI when I was using, as it related to sales, with a service called InsideSales.com. And InsideSales.com, in case you don't know what that is the original outreach platform. InsideSales.com was directly linked. It was the first time you could actually figure out when someone was going to actually pick up the phone, when someone was actually going to answer your email, and that was their AI that was able to provide us with that. And David's going to provide us with more insight as to what he's doing with and how they're using AI for sales. But before he does that, he's going to answer 3 questions. What is the best movie you've ever seen?
So I got in trouble for this answer, but I said The Lion King. It's a movie I can watch every day, so no problem with that.
Watch every day. All right.
I don't, but I could.
Good to know. All right. Favorite vacation spot?
Positano. In Italy.
It's in Italy. Again, another place I've never been to, but probably not as good as Palm Springs. And the third thing, your favorite food to eat while you're driving?
So I'm a bit of a neat freak, so I just go with chewing gum. Very controlled, and I know where it is at all times. So.
That works perfectly fine for me. All right, thanks, David.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thanks for sticking around to the end. We had a bet as to who was going to have more people. Were more people going to be here in the morning for the first speaker, or at the end as things got on? So I used to be in the fitness industry, just to digress from AI. And one of the things that I learned a lot about is sitting, how sitting for a long time is really dangerous for you. So I want to just, if everyone doesn't mind maybe joining me in this little exercise, let's just wake up our bodies a little bit. Everyone doesn't mind standing up for a second. Take a deep breath in. Okay, bring your hands in front. Let's do this like a little group fitness class. And start to clap your hands together. Big clap. Big clap. Now can I have everyone say, woohoo! Excellent. And I'm going to send this to my CEO and tell him I had an amazing speech. And the audience have got a standing ovation. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. That is Sales 101. We're going to talk about AI. This is a huge, exciting topic. I'm horribly biased. I work for an AI company, so you can expect that I am going to tell you things that I want you to believe in and hear. But the big challenge that people have today when they look at AI in the context of sales and marketing is this coming for our jobs? Is this something that's going to make us better? Or is this something that's actually going to replace us? And so I'm hoping to talk a little bit about that today. So firstly, we're going to start with some good news. The good news is that if you are in SaaS today, you've got yourself a job for the conceivable future. The world of SaaS is only increasing, and if you're a SaaS salesperson, awesome, because there's always companies to join, right? So if you look at just the demand for all sorts of tech, and I'm in marketing technology, sales technology. This is the latest list of the 5,000 MarTech. I think we're somewhere, no, I'm kidding, I don't know where we are in that picture, but there are tons of opportunities. The reason these companies exist is because there are tons of customers, right? There's tons of people looking for solutions in these spaces, and that's why we're all here, and that's how many of us are employed today. Where I'm getting at is that demand is always going to be there. If you've got a good product or service or solution, or however you're framing it, right, there's always going to be a customer for it. And a lot of people, specifically in this country, really worry about building ready, effective tools, solutions, products, tech. This is what the big story about the startup nation is, right? The 8,200 graduates starting with this amazing piece of technology and raising millions and millions and selling for billions and billions. And the part that they miss is you actually need sales, right? So I love this guy, Gabriel Weinberg of DuckDuckGo. One of the few people brave enough to try and take on Google. But one of the things that he says is that it's about distribution. One of the biggest killers to your business is how do you distribute your product in time? And where we stand today in terms of sales and marketing is exactly that challenge, is how do we get ourselves out there to the right people at the right time, enough of the time, and consistently, so that we can grow and that we can scale and that we can succeed. The current strategy is to grow by hiring more. If you're in Israel, if your sales teams are in Israel, you'll know how hard that is to hire really high quality inside sales professionals. We are not a ginormous country, and there are not a lot of us in this industry. High tech is one of the biggest exports here in the country, but there's a lot of talent, there's a talent war. So the challenge with hiring talent, these are just like a few basic stats. I took a look at LinkedIn yesterday, 26,000 SDR jobs being advertised at the moment. Okay, companies dying for SDRs. I know you talked about SDRs, super vital to a business happening, but also very, very hard to find good ones, to retain them. It's a big challenge. Salespeople, we become more and more expensive over time. I hope everyone can see over there. So the cost to replace the sales rep is actually increasing year on year. And we don't always stick it around for so long, right? Some of it's our fault, some of it's the company's fault. I'm not going to go there, but if you're in sales, you know what I mean, right? Let's not say more. So this is a challenge, right? If we're trying to compete on, well, let's just hire more people, it's expensive, it's hard to retain, it's also hard to find. The other thing that we can think about is how do we enhance what our salespeople do? So I love this, when I was a kid, there was a Smurfs book called What Do Smurfs Do All Day? And they do a lot. And salespeople, what do we do all day, right? It's a big question. And I'm sure you've all seen these horrible posts about how little of our time is actually spent on sales activities. It's a bit of a misquoted stat, but if you look at like a typical day, most of that time is actually spent doing things that aren't directly attributed to bringing in new revenue. And that's just because some of it you have to do, internal meetings, following up, logging information in the CRM, reporting, playing ping pong. Other things you can possibly kind of get off your plate, and that's what I'm talking a little bit more about today. So one of the things that I want to really focus on is inefficiencies in the sales process. There are a lot of things that we do today and we accept as normal that trip salespeople up, that slow us down. And I'm not talking about the strategic stuff in terms of how to close a deal, how to start a conversation, but I'm talking about the day-to-day little things that are slowing you up, slowing you down. The first one is out of office. So really, really interesting test that we did, and now just to kind of segment into a little bit about Exceed, we build AI virtual assistants that are able to have conversations with prospects and walk them through the sales funnel. And we analyzed the emails of our customers just to look at what the typical responses were that weren't, removing the yes, I want to buy or I want to talk to you. 50% of those responses are actually out of office. Out of office can account for up to 4 hours a week of a salesperson's time. I know it's hard to believe, it's hard to think about this, but if you are taking that out of office response and doing something intelligent with it, meaning you're going into your CRM, you're setting yourself a task to follow up with Bill, who's back on Wednesday, and then you're doing it, that process repeatedly across sales companies can cost up to 4 hours a week. So it's a huge area, and plus there's not much value there in you doing that, right? If you can automate things like that, you can be a better salesperson. Another one is unqualified leads. One of the biggest challenges of being an AE is when you get that demo booked for you by your SDR, and the lead up to the conversation is, I know he's not the right prospect, but he really wants to hear what we're doing. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's horrible, it's true, but that's just the way it is, right? Hey, listen, to their defense, some of those work out. But I'd take the former any other day. A lot of leads are unqualified. You can see the stats, I don't need to read them to you. Another really interesting thing, and I guess it depends on company stage, but seen as I'm sure many of you are in the startup world, 61% of companies send every single lead to sales. Yeah, sales will figure it out, right? They'll just try, just pitch. Fun for us. Now, qualification is a huge area that trips salespeople up. We train SDRs for qualification, but as I mentioned, people can sometimes turn around and add their own little flavors to that message. Missed meetings. This is where I already learned to hone in my ping pong game. Missed meetings mean an extra hour of inactivity, right? Maybe you've done your follow-ups for the day, you've been prepared for this meeting, it's the preparation before, it's the following up and trying to reschedule missed meetings. And interestingly, the longer the meeting, the higher the chance is that they're going to miss it. We haven't tested how short that is. It'd be interesting to find out if you did a 1-minute meeting, would everyone attend? And then what would you do with it? Maybe for the next Kenneth. Follow-up. This is an area that people talk about a lot. If you ever follow the conversations about sales and best practice in sales, we are really bad at following up. And there's actual very basic reasons for it. It's not because we don't know how. It's because there is a decreasing return on following up if you're not getting a response back. As a salesperson, you're measured over time. You're measured by how many deals you bring in this month, this quarter, this year. And if you've got a prospect that is not necessarily responsive, at some point you've got to shift your focus and focus on maybe a higher level opportunity. What we do find though is salespeople really give up after about 5 or so follow-ups. And buyers are only buying and engaging after about 8 to 12 email attempts or contact attempts. We actually tested with our clients on leads that have gone dark. It's about 22.25, if you want to be exact, emails that need to be sent to a prospect who's gone dark in order to get a response back. Depressing, I know, but guys, the solution is here. Wait till the end. What if we could be better? So what if we could maybe take all of the things that irritate us or are not enhancing our salesmanship and automate that? And I know there was a little bit mentioned about HubSpot automation, the world of automation, alignment of marketing and sales. This is a huge, huge area that's going to give a lot of companies a big boost. So we talked about how a typical salesperson spends their day, most of the day on non-sales related activity. What if we could have a scenario where we've got AI handling a lot of that, non-sales related activity, things like missed meetings, follow-ups, qualifying or disqualifying leads. One of the interesting things that we measured is that of all of the leads that went through our platform this year, 85% were disqualified by the virtual assistant. When I tell that to people on a sales call, they usually freak out. But if you're in sales, you understand that it's about the quality of who you speak to, not the quantity. So you would rather speak to the 15% of people that actually fit within your ideal customer profile than the 85% that don't, and just curious and kicking tires and trying to see what you're about. So with AI, we've reached a really interesting place. When I joined Exceed, I came from a company where I was VP of the BDR team, very heavy outbound cold calling culture, and I already believe the only way to do it is get on the phones, a little bit of like Asa, and I still believe that, by the way. I think that outbound is huge, and I think that you do need SDR teams, but I did not believe that you could do anything remotely similar with any other way. I thought emails were for wusses, and I don't know if everyone knows what a wuss is. There's a bit of Aussie. For wimps, I don't know. You have to get on the phone, one of the biggest revelations that I had at Exceed, and again, I'm horribly biased because I'm employed by them, but I remember going to sleep and waking up the next morning, and I had 3 new demos scheduled for me, all by the bot. This year, I've got about 6 or 7 SDRs working for me. I'm head of sales, small company, Series A funded company, and all of my sales have come directly as a result of using Exceed. I use Exceed to sell Exceed, and it's been really eye-opening just to see that people are willing to connect with the virtual assistant. This isn't new. If you're in the world of web chat, if you've done anything to do with chat, from live person, so people actually prefer to engage with a web chat versus a human being in many scenarios. In industries like insurance, e-commerce, they prefer to just get their answers directly. But the interesting thing is across other mediums like email or SMS, where you can free text, virtual assistants or AI bots add a huge amount of value there because people can connect with them. The ultimate sales KPI. We are often measured by the actual dollars that we bring in at the end of the day. But if you think about how we really should be measuring sales teams is in our use of time, because that's ultimately what everything's measured over, right? How many deals per month, per quarter, per year. If I told you, hey, I'll bring in $10 million worth of sales over 100 years, it's not a great pitch. And I think that what we're looking at with regards to AI is being able to maximize your time. That's one thing. It's an efficiency scenario. But it also allows you to be in multiple places at the same time. So I've got a bot in my name that follows up with people that have gone dark, missed meetings, what have you. And the second they're responding and engaging, it knows to kick it back to me when I need it to. Otherwise, send them a case study, walk them through a process, and take it from there. The other thing I think that's really important to think about is the original use of technology. The point of technology is never really been to replace people. It's resulted in a lot of jobs, being replaced. Moving from horse and cart to automobiles, costs a lot of people jobs, but the point is about making people better. And for the first time with regards to sales and marketing, AI is allowing us to be better people because we're able to build connections. One of the challenges as a sales professional is you spend so much time doing so much that you can't actually focus, and the quality of your engagement, the quality of your outreach, the quality of your follow-up decreases. You see that a lot actually on the BDR front. It's very, very hard to personalize every outreach. You don't know if the person's going to respond to you, etc. But you see it a lot down the funnel as well in AEs, doing a 2-minute research before a phone call and then having a conversation. Is it because they're lazy? No, it's just because they're time poor. So trying to be able to escalate, increase your ability to have those deeper conversations is going to result in a better quality of output from your sales team. I thought I'll talk a little bit about my day-to-day. So I wouldn't say the model of how to use AI, but we try to use AI as much as possible in the sales process, and hopefully it's interesting to you. Everything, as I mentioned, that does not require high-touch engagement is done for me by AI. Whether that is dealing with a new prospect coming in and qualifying them, asking them key qualifying questions, disqualifying them, dealing with outreach, engaging people who maybe have dropped off at some point, following up with people, even those who respond back and say, hey, try me next year. The virtual assistants know how to reach out to them next year. Out of office, I'm no longer the right person, John Smith, CC'd is. All of that is automated. Miss a meeting, great. Over to the AI bot, that'll reschedule it. It didn't cost me time chasing you and reconnecting. Or I didn't kick it back to the SDR team, it cost them time either. So I know, this is the big question, does it actually work? I love this example. We've got an AI bot called Tara. She got asked out for lunch. It happens pretty often, actually. And I think it's proof, right, in terms of people being able to believe in and engage with the virtual assistants. The best part about this story is after this creepy message from Mark, Tara actually removed him from the sequence. So that's got to go down as one of the best rejections in history. I mean, it's one thing to be rejected by a person, but an AI bot rejecting you, it's got to hurt. I guess my final point is really, I don't want this just to be about AI. I want this to really be about the way we think about sales and marketing today. Is if your measurement for success, your KPI, is related to time, then why aren't you investing in exponentially increasing that time? Thank you very much. I appreciate your time today. One last thing I'll just add is if you do want to test what it's like, you do want to engage with it, obviously they'll be sending the slides over, but feel free to head over to exceed.ai/sales-Kennis, and you can request a copy of the slides and the virtual assistant will actually talk to you. I think there's a question just there.
You want to grab the mic? There's one over there.
Yes. Does this work?
Who's got the question? Okay, way in the back. Hang on a second.
Wait, let's make Blair run.
So how do you use marketing to assist in this process?
So my main customer is actually marketing. The big challenge, I know we talked about, Kakao was talking about the sales and marketing challenge obviously doesn't happen in your company, other companies, where marketing and sales butt heads. What marketing deems to be a qualified lead, what sales deems to be a qualified lead, are not always the same. So for us, we actually sell to marketing because it gives them ownership over the leads. They know that the lead that has shown some interest is being somewhat sales qualified, even if it's just the initial questions, and then it's sent over to sales. If your company has like an SDR team, then it's used as a way to enhance them. So we'll use it on leads that the SDRs typically don't get to. Maybe that if you're a company with high volume inbound that your SDRs can't get to in time, the bot can take over. So companies like Zoom or Monday.com. Or if you're a company that requires a lot of follow-up and people just aren't getting to those, then that's where you deploy it as well. So nurturing, when they're kicking it back to marketing, saying, here, do something with it, they haven't responded to us, and you're going, oh, okay, we'll send them another marketing message. What we're able to do with AI is be able to send them sales messages, trying to provoke a response, and know confidently that we can handle what those responses are.
I have a quick question. So, in your sales process, are you primarily talking about the use of AI for inbound only, or how do you use it with outbound? How does it work with outbound?
Yeah, it's a great one. So outbound in general is tricky. I've got this whole theory about Google trying to just get us all to pay for ads. There's limitations as to how many emails you can send, what your content says, who you're sending that to, and it's like we work within those frameworks. So when we onboard customers, it's one of the key things that we do. To try and make sure that that message and the reason for reaching out to them and the way you're sending those messages are as accurate as possible. So we usually, sorry, I think I wrote something.
Excellent work.
That's why I'm not in tech. We usually, it's not working? Sorry. Over to QA. We usually will attach it to like a Gmail inbox. So you are limited as to about 400 emails a day that you can send. But that's if they're already cold. If it's inbound, you can send 2,000-3,000 emails a day just from a Gmail inbox. So preferred use case is inbound or outbound with some real reason to reach out. Cold leads that are once engaged, conference leads. If you're doing cold prospecting, then the same rules apply whether you're using AI or any other system. Thank you, everyone.
All right. So, contrary to what the term